We'll wait to see where the usual suspects are, but in the meantime, we'll give you a little bit of news report, and hopefully, we'll be hearing from Nick, Sasha, Shaquille, of course, Steve, and the rest of the gang. But definitely, one of the news stories that we're hearing about is around the new variant of the um, coronavirus. So, yes, Moderna CEO Stefan Bancel has left no doubt whether he's taking a glass half full or half empty approach to the emergence of the new Omicron coronavirus variant. That's what he's saying. He told the Financial Times there's no world where current vaccines are as effective as they have been against the Delta variant. And he suggested the drop off could be significant. I think it's going to be a material drop. I just don't know how much because we need to wait for the data. But all the scientists I've talked to are like, this is not going to be good. The interview puts another scare into the financial market with futures on the Dow Industrials. Looks like they were down 1%. Contract losing um, more than 500 points. The major vaccine makers have offered timelines of 2 to 6 weeks for assessing its vaccine evading capabilities. And in the meantime, travel shutdowns and behavior modifications are at risk as we await anecdotal and statistical evidence of the spread of the virus and its virulence, said Steen Jacobson, Chief Investment Officer at Seiko Bank. Moderna had previously announced that data on the ability of its vaccines to neutralize the Omicron variant would be expected within weeks as it works to rapidly advance a booster candidate specifically against the variant. Product sales from its coronavirus vaccine accounted for 4.81 billion of Moderna's 4.97 billion in revenue in the third quarter. So a significant amount of the money that Moderna had made last quarter or this third quarter was actually due to the money that they were getting from the vaccine. So that's one of the stories that's out there. And of course, there's still back and forth going on between Representative Lauren Boebert and Representative Ilhan Omar. Representative Ilhan Omar, a Democrat in Minnesota, said she had an unproductive call with Representative Lauren Boebert, Republican of Colorado, on Monday over her anti-Muslim remarks and claimed the Colorado Republican refused to publicly apologize for suggesting that she was a terrorist. I'd actually read an article from one of the people in Boebert's camp, and they had claimed that Omar had actually hung up on her. Instead, Omar claimed in a new statement that Boebert doubled down on her hurtful and dangerous comments, which led Omar to end the unproductive call. In a video posted to Twitter last week, Boebert referred to Omar as a member of the Jihad Squad and claimed that a Capitol police officer thought she was a terrorist in an encounter in an elevator on Capitol Hill. She was condemned by Democrats and some Republicans for the remark and apologized on Twitter Friday to anyone in the Muslim community I offended, adding that she had reached out to Omar's office to speak with her directly. So that's what she said that she had done. And apparently that call did not go well. And even several people are saying that Omar hung up on Boebert after the Colorado Republican refused to make a public apology to her, according to a statement from Omar and Boebert's account of the call. I believe in engaging with those we disagree with respectfully, but not when that disagreement is rooted in outright bigotry and hate, Omar said, adding that Boebert doubled down on her comments. In an Instagram video recapping their conversation, Boebert said she refused to make a public apology directly to Omar and instead demanded the Minnesota Democrat apologize for her anti-American rhetoric. So it seems like they're just going back and forth, as oftentimes does happen in the world of politics. So it looks like they're just going back and forth, and who knows where this will end in all of that kind of situation. By the way, if you're wondering about your jobs of the future, well, Biden visited a Minnesota technical college and he had some statements around that as well. So we're going to see if people have any thoughts about that. But U.S. President Joe Biden, racing to stay ahead of a new COVID-19 variant and rising inflation, travels to Minnesota on today to highlight the benefits of his $1 trillion infrastructure law and push for passage of a separate 1.75 trillion spending measure. And if any of y'all watched the show yesterday, you know we had a whole conversation around that right here on the network and all of that. Biden will visit Dakota County Technical College in Rosemount, a suburb near Minneapolis and St. Paul, which has programs to train workers to build, operate, and maintain infrastructure supported by the infrastructure law. He will focus on how the law will deliver concrete results for communities, create good paying union jobs, and position America to compete and win the 21st century, Press Secretary Jean Psaki told reporters on Monday. She said Dakota County Tech, which serves 2,900 credit students and 10,000 non-credit students, offered an example of institutions nationwide. That's right, offered an example of institutions nationwide that will train the next generations of workers and rebuild America's infrastructure. The infrastructure law, coupled with 24 billion in investments in the 1.75 trillion Build Back Better spending measure, will prepare millions of workers for high-quality jobs in growing economic sectors, according to the White House. Biden had pushed to include 2 years of free community college in the massive spending package, but that funding was cut in a compromise with moderate Democrats concerned about the bill's steep price tag. It still includes $5 billion for community colleges to expand workforce training programs in partnership with employers, unions, public systems, and community bodies, with $5 billion for large-scale training for jobs in high-demand sectors such as clean energy, manufacturing, education, and caregiving. Under the infrastructure law, Minnesota will receive 4.5 billion in federal aid to rebuild highways, about 302 million for bridges, and 818 million to improve public infrastructure, according to the White House. It will also fund expansion of a network to charge electric vehicles and measures to give state residents access to high-speed internet. So that should be some good news for those folks that are looking for that high-speed internet and all of that. So definitely, those are some of the things that I'm seeing in the news. I'll bring you some other ideas of news stories as well. Hope that everybody out there is still doing well on their recovery from Thanksgiving last week and all of that. But definitely, that is some of the things that I am seeing in the news. And of course, very much anxious to see when our other guests will be appearing as well. So definitely checking with them and seeing what they've got going on and when they will be making a trip here to share their thoughts about some of these news stories that I am sharing on today. So hopefully we'll be hearing from some people in that regards. I know Steve had told me that he had an appointment, but he did say he was going to try to make it in today, and hopefully he'll be making it in very shortly and all of that. So I do know that I'm looking forward to seeing some of my fellow panelists, and we'll see what they've got to say about a number of these stories and what their reaction is to those that I am bringing up at this particular moment. Like I said, definitely waiting to hear their thoughts about that and just about a number of other things that are going on in the world. By the way, it looks like Trump had called aides hours before the Capitol riot to discuss how to stop the Biden victory. So that's one of the things that is coming out in the news. Hours before the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol this year, Donald Trump made several calls from the White House to top lieutenants at the Willard Hotel in Washington and talked about ways to stop the certification of Joe Biden's election win from taking place on January 6th. The former president first told the lieutenants his vice president, Mike Pence, was reluctant to go along with the plan to commandeer his largely ceremonial role at the joint session of Congress in a way that would allow Trump to retain the presidency for a second term. But as Trump relayed to them the situation with Pence, he pressed his lieutenants about how to stop Biden's certification from taking place on January 6th and delay the certification process to get alternate slates of electors for Trump sent to Congress. The former president's remarks came as part of a strategy discussion he had from the White House with the lieutenants at the Willard, a team led by Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Boris Epstein, and Trump strategist Steve Bannon about delaying the certification. Multiple sources speaking to The Guardian on the condition of anonymity described Trump's involvement in the effort to subvert the results of the 2020 election. Trump's remarks revealed a direct line from the White House and the command center at the Willard. The conversation also shows Trump's thoughts appear to be in line with the motivation of the pro-Trump mob that carried out the Capitol attack and halted Biden's certification until it was later ratified by Congress. The former president's call to the Willett Hotel about stopping Biden's certification is increasingly a central focus of the House Select Committee's investigation into the Capitol attack as it raises the specter of a possible connection between Trump and the insurrection. So that is some of the news that we're hearing in regards to that. And I'm sure that we'll be getting more reports about things along that line as well. So definitely that is some of the news that we are hearing about what's going on in that regards. But I'd love to hear other folks' comments and thoughts about just the news in general. As a matter of fact, I saw a survey on LinkedIn where a lot of folks were saying that they're not even spending a lot of time watching the news or paying attention to the news and all of that. And I know that Nick is a big fan of surveys, so I'd love to hear his thoughts about these surveys and the results of these surveys when they do come out and all along those lines. So if anybody has any thoughts about that, we would love to hear your thoughts as well. So definitely, if anybody's got any thoughts around these issues, or if you'd like to just share your thoughts, we would love to hear from you as well. So definitely that is some of the things that are going on. And like I said, Steve did tell me that he would be appearing shortly. So hopefully we'll be seeing Steve in the not too distant future. I haven't heard from the rest of the gang, so hopefully they are en route as well, because we do know that sometimes these things do not get to their original sources, and we're hoping that that is not the case this time. So we're going to see if I have to send this link to the various people that usually come in and share their thoughts as well. So that's just some of the things that happen in the world, and sometimes we have to make adjustments as we go along. But I am used to making adjustments here at International Broadcast Media. So that's some of the things that are going on, and we hope that all of you are taking time and definitely paying attention to the world issues and the things that are happening in the world that may be of interest to you as well. By the way, it does look like the supply chain problem has hit charities' holiday gifts for kids. That is one of the other stories that I was seeing. With less than 4 weeks to go until Christmas, Kristen Beguera has been rushing to find enough doll styling heads to give to kids in need. But the purchasing coordinator for the California-based nonprofit Family Giving Tree says it's been difficult to find them or racially diverse Barbies or Disney princess dolls. Other charities who give to kids during the holiday say they're also facing challenges finding enough gaming consoles, laptops, and other electronic items amid the global shortage of chips used in cars, phones, and other devices. I've never seen something like this, Beguera said. Our biggest fear is we're not going to get the quality of gifts that we want, or we're not going to have enough in general. Attempting to grant thousands of holiday wish requests has always been challenging for Beguera, but it's been downright miserable this year as the global supply chain bottlenecks create shortage on many items, making it difficult to grant many holiday wishes for the 34,000 children and adults the organization expects to aid in the Bay Area this holiday season. Some wholesale vendors have already informed her that purchases will not arrive, giving her the option of getting a refund or buying another item. If a child doesn't get their preferred gift, she said the organization will attempt to grant their second wish or find another replacement item. Similar worries are being felt across the country as COVID-related supply chain snafus produced by clogged U.S. ports, a lack of workers to move the cargo, and skyrocketing shipping costs lead to empty store shelves and higher prices on some products. The supply chain slowdown is one of the main reasons why donations of new toys to the Toy Foundation have declined by nearly 80% in dollar value this year compared to 2019, according to Pamela Mastrata, the executive director of the group, which was formed by a toy industry trade association to act as an industry-wide charitable collective for manufacturers. So it does look like that is an issue that folks are facing in regards to being able to get their toys and see about getting the toys in any form or fashion. So that is one of the things that is going on in that regards. I'd love to know if folks like you are having a hard time getting your toys, and if you're just maybe even not even thinking about having as extensive a Christmas as you may have had in the past and all of that. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about that. And if you have any thoughts about that, definitely reach out and let us know. We would love to hear from you in that regard. So that is some of the other things that are happening in society and all of that. So definitely always glad to hear folks and their thoughts around the various news items that are out there and what they are doing in regards to that. And, we try to keep in touch with things that are happening in other parts of the world as well. And it does look like a UN agency for Palestine refugees is facing a funding crisis. Speaking of funding crisis, the head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees said Tuesday it was unable to pay its 28,000 employees on time this month because of a major funding crisis, warning of potential cuts in vital services to millions of people amid a global pandemic. UNRWA runs schools, clinics, and food distribution programs for millions of registered Palestinian refugees across the Middle East, mainly the descendants of Palestinians who fled or were driven out of what is now Israel during the 1948 war surrounding its creation. The 5.7 million refugees mostly live in camps that have been transformed into built up but often impoverished residential areas in the Israel occupied West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza, as well as Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. UNRW head Philip Lasarina told reporters in Jordan that the resumption of U.S. support for the agency this year, which had been halted by the Trump administration, was offset by a reduction in funding by other donors. The agency went through a management crisis in 2019 when its previous head resigned amid allegations of sexual misconduct, nepotism, and other abuses of authority at the agency. Staff went on strike Monday after being informed last week that salaries would be delayed, but halted the action following mediation, Lazzarini said. If UNRW health services are compromised in the middle of a global pandemic, COVID-19 vaccination rollout will come to an end. Maternal and child care will stop. 500,000 girls and boys not knowing if they can continue learning, and over 2 million of the poorest Palestinian refugees will not get cash and food assistance, he said. The humanitarian needs of the Palestinian refugees keep increasing while funding to the agency has stagnated since 2013. So it does look like he also was saying that the agency raised enough donations at a recent conference in Brussels to cover up to 48% of its budget in 2022 and 2023. It also generated 60 million toward a 100 million shortfall until the end of the year to keep the services running. But it does look like they are still in need of additional funding as well. So that is one of the stories that is coming out to us from the international aspect of the world and all of that. And it looks like Syria has seized amphetamine-based drugs headed for Saudi Arabia. So Syrian authorities said Tuesday they seized over 500 kilograms or 1,000 pounds of amphetamine pills known by the brand name Captagon, hidden in pasta packages in a van bound for Saudi Arabia. An investigation was underway to determine who was behind the attempted smuggling, a statement on the official state news SANA said. It didn't offer details on whether anyone has been arrested. U.S. law enforcement officials say smuggling of the amphetamine-based drug from Syria and Lebanon has been on the rise, with over $3 billion worth of Captagon seized during February of 2020. The amount far exceeds the value of Syrian legal exports, according to James Walsh, a high-level official with the State Department International Narcotics Bureau earlier this month. He had no details on how much goes through Lebanon and how much is from Syria. The statement carried by Sana said authorities became suspicious and stopped a van in rural Damascus carrying 525 kilograms, 1,160 pounds of the pill hidden in a shipment of pasta headed to Saudi Arabia. The smugglers had sprayed pepper over the pills to distract sniffer dogs, the statement said. Walsh said the smuggling of amphetamines from Syria has a wide range impact on Europe, Africa, and Asia, and his obstruction efforts to resolve the country's lengthy civil war while contributing to deteriorating relationships with Gulf states. He spoke at a conference organized by the Washington based Atlantic Center earlier this month. The U.S. has imposed various sanctions on Syrian government officials and businesses linked to President Bashar Assad, whom it blames for much of the country's decade old conflict. Arab countries have been making moves to re engage the Assad government after years of boycott following the war's outbreak. Experts say a crackdown on drug smuggling would be a key for Arab rapprochement with Syria. Smuggling of Captagon has also been at the heart of a spat between Saudi Arabia and Lebanon after over 5 million pills hidden in a shipment of pomegranate from Lebanon were seized in the kingdom in April. So not just a issue of drugs here in the United States, but it looks like it's a worldwide issue as well. So that is one of the things that is going on. And hopefully folks will be appearing and sharing their thoughts about all of these things and all of that. But we're going to see if anybody is going to come in or if I'm running this ship alone. But I've done this before, so I'm used to that. So we're going to see what happens in that regards as well. I might bring y'all up a couple of advertisements of some of our other shows that exist here as well. As a matter of fact, we've got a New Year's Eve special. So I think I want to share you a little bit about that New Year's Eve special. All right, folks, that was a little bit about that New Year's Eve special that we're looking forward to on December 31st. It should be a fantastic special, and definitely I know Brandon will do an amazing job with that, and it will definitely keep y'all uh, enjoyed in holiday spirit and all of that. So that should be a great event, and I definitely know that a lot of folks are looking forward to that special when it comes our way and all of that. By the way, we're talking about vaccines and vaccine mandates. Well, that it also is impacting other countries as well. So, Germany, Schultz is supporting mandatory vaccine by the end of February. So, Olaf Scholz, who is set to take over as Germany's chancellor next week, supports making vaccination against COVID-19 compulsory and backs barring the unvaccinated from non-essential stores, sources said on Tuesday. Schultz and outgoing Chancellor Angela Merkel were meeting regional leaders on Tuesday to discuss how to respond to soaring infections in a fourth wave of the pandemic. According to sources with information about the discussion, Schultz told the meeting he was in favor of a cross-party initiative to make vaccines mandatory with the hope that it would be put into practice by the end of February. Neighboring Austria, which like Germany has a relatively low rate of vaccination compared with the rest of the Western Europe, earlier this month announced plans to make vaccines compulsory as of February. Schultz is also in favor of making non-essential stores require customers to show proof of vaccination or recovery from COVID-19, according to the sources. Germany's Robert Koch Institute for Infectious Diseases reported that 452.2 people per 100,000 were infected in the last week, down slightly from 452.4 on Monday. It was the first decline since early November. Despite this, the number of new daily cases rose slightly on Tuesday compared to last week to 45,753, and there were another 388 deaths that were recorded, the highest daily figure since early in March. This brought the overall death toll to 101,344. So definitely a lot of folks are looking at that. And speaking of the kind of things that are going on with COVID, an experimental COVID-19 drug that could soon become the first U.S. authorized pill to treat the coronavirus faces one final hurdle on today. A panel of government experts will scrutinize data on the medication from drug maker Merck. The Food and Drug Administration is asking its outside experts whether the agency should authorize the pill when new information that it is less effective than first reported and may cause birth defects. The panel's recommendations aren't binding, but often guide FDA decisions. Tuesday's meeting comes as U.S. infections are rising again, and health authorities worldwide scramble to size up the threat posed by the new Omicron variant. If authorized, Merck's pill would be the first that U.S. patients could take at home to ease symptoms and speed recovery, a major step toward reducing hospital caseloads and deaths. The drug is already authorized for emergency use in the UK. Given the ongoing threat of the pandemic, the FDI is widely expected to approve emergency use of Merck's pill, but new data released last week paint a less compelling picture of the drug than when Merck first publicized its early results in October. On Friday, Merck said final study results showed that this new drug reduced hospitalizations and deaths by 30% among adults infected with the coronavirus, significantly lower than the 50% reduction it first announced based on incomplete results. FDA regulators said they were still reviewing Merck's update and would present a new assessment of the drug's benefit to the outside panel. So one key question is whether the drug should be restricted from use in pregnant women or women of childbearing age. So that's some of the news that's going on in that regard with that new drug and all of that. And it does look like some places are starting to be more aggressive with their mask mandates with that Omicron variant as well. So that's some of the things that are taking place in the world of news and all of that. So that's just some of the things that we are seeing in that regard. We're going to see what's going on in U.S. news as well and try to bring some of that to you. And of course, we'll be coming back with some other things as well. Definitely, it looks like the Russian coronavirus denying monk is given a prison sentence. So a rebel Russian monk who castigated the Kremlin and denied that the coronavirus existed was convicted Tuesday on accusations of encouraging suicides and given a 3.5-year prison sentence. The monk, Father Sergei, was arrested in December 2020 on charges of inciting suicidal actions through sermons in which he urged believers to die for Russia, breaching the freedom of conscience, and making arbitrary moves. He rejected the accusations, and his lawyers said they would appeal Tuesday's ruling by Moscow's Ismailovo District Court. Father Sergei reacted to the verdict with a biblical "do not judge, and you will not be judged." When the coronavirus pandemic began, the 66-year-old monk denied its existence and denounced government efforts to stem the pandemic as Satan's electronic camp. He has spread the long debunked conspiracy theories about COVID-19 and described the coronavirus vaccines being developed against COVID-19 as part of a purported global plot to control the masses via microchips. The monk urged followers to disobey the government's lockdown measures and hold up at a monastery near Yekaterinburg that he founded and had dozens of burly volunteers, including veterans of the separatist conflict in eastern Ukraine, help enforce his rules while the prioress and several nuns left. The monk chastised President Vladimir Putin as a traitor to the motherland who was serving a satanic world government and denounced the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill, and other top clerics as heretics who must be thrown out. So looks like he's going to be dealing with this whole thing in terms of a prison system sentence, but it does look like he's going to be making an appeal as well. And by the way, U.S. President Joe Biden is expected to nominate on Tuesday a former Obama official who oversaw the acquisition of the F-35 fighter, the troubled KC-46 tanker, and the B-21 stealth bomber to be the Pentagon's chief weapons buyer, according to sources familiar with the selection and all of that. So that is some of the things going on. I do see that Steve has popped in, so we're going to see what Steve's got going on in his world, as I've just been trying to share some of the news items that I was finding. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was just
Doing
telling him about some of the news items that I found and all of that.
That's
But now
it's
you can tell
holiday
them about what
season.
you got on your mind.
Got my red shirt. Well, I was going to do my monologue
Yeah.
today. Um, I don't know whether to close out with the monologue or do you want to stop early and begin with my monologue tomorrow. But whatever you want to
No,
do.
no, just go with the monologue right now, and then, like I said, if I depending on how long the monologue is, or depending on what other things that you got in the news, I was talking a little bit before you got here about the back and forth, tit to tat between Elion and Bobert. So I was talking a little bit about that. I was talking about the Omicron variant and some of the news that I was finding about that and everything. And then I just found a news story just recently that's based in Camden. I'm guessing that's Camden, New Jersey, where a Cumberland County man has to surrender more than 30 guns under terms of a plea agreement for a weapons offense that he was part of. So it says that Derek
Yes.
Hollett.
Mark, how long have you been on? 5 minutes?
Oh, I've been on for about 30.
Oh, okay, because the link wasn't working. Okay. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
Um, well, we can. Is it only us today?
It's only us so far. So, like I said, it's just whatever you got in mind, we can go with it. I did see that I sent the link to Sasha and Shaquille, and they may pop in, but yeah, we can just go with the two of us. Like I said, Derek Nollet, in that particular story, said that he had used straw buyers to acquire guns he could not legally purchase himself. That's interesting. This man is actually admitting that he was using people that um, were not even, I guess, in his family or anything, but people that were buying for him. So said that those purchases were made in 2018 and 2019, and it noted that Nolan can't buy guns legally due to a 2015 felony conviction for endangering the welfare of a child. So the statement also alleged that Nolan ordered fuel filters in 2020 that he intended to modify and use as firearm silencers. So I guess there are ways. I wonder what Shaquille would think about that. That some of our less than law-abiding citizens can get around the gun laws, because apparently what he was doing was getting people to buy the guns for him, and I know that was part of what they said happened with Rittenhouse as well. So I guess folks that want to get guns, even if they've got things going against them, they can find ways around
Well,
that.
I'll give a precursor to the monologue I was going to give today, but I'll do it again tomorrow because I always
Mhm.
begin my monologue, and that'll be my monologue. But I'll give everyone a snippet of what I will be talking about tomorrow. But
Right.
today begins Giving Tuesday.
Mhm.
This is an interesting day. It's always a Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It
Right.
goes to December 3rd. It was started in 2012 when the
Okay.
idea dawned upon leaders to unleash the power of people and organizations to transform their own communities and the world. What's interesting, and I'll talk about this tomorrow, is that the initial office of Giving Tuesday, and the hashtag is hashtag Giving Tuesday,
Mhm.
was the Belfer Center for Innovation and Social Impact
Oh,
in New York. And what was interesting, it was an incubator for ideas until they grow to the point where they stand on their own. And Giving Tuesday eventually became an independent entity. And tomorrow, when we begin World Edition, we'll focus our show a little bit on organizations out there that we can give to. What's interesting is that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Ford
mhm.
Motor Company, PayPal, many companies have been supportive of Giving Tuesday. I will be supporting Pancreatic Cancer
Mhm.
Network, PanCan. Liz Johnson, my colleague on the council, ran for mayor. She was the mayoral candidate, lost a race. But 20 years ago, her father died of cancer, and
Oh,
the Johnson family started that network. And I'm not wearing my purple, I wore my bright red
mhm.
shirt. I'm not making a political statement. I'm trying to get myself in the festive holiday mood.
Right.
And but that's my challenge to everyone out there today. And I'll begin my monologue tomorrow with Giving Tuesday, even though it's Wednesday. It goes till December 3rd, so that'll be a precursor.
No,
Um,
that's a precursor. That's a great precursor.
yeah,
I
we'll,
know a
we'll
lot
talk.
of people are. You mentioned holidays. Have you heard a lot of people doing holiday gatherings, or how are we doing holidays this year in terms of corporate America? Because I do know that we've been in the middle of this pandemic, and that was something I used to enjoy, was those holiday parties, those kind of like
Uh, I
things
had,
that you.
I mean, I used to have about 2 years ago before COVID. I had 21 Christmas parties.
Right.
I was so freaking tired by Christmas Day. I was just burned out. I would always get sick that week. My body was so worn down. This year, I've got, believe it or not, I mean, I'm a bit of a social animal. I think I'm up to like 10 or 11.
Okay.
But I'm not used to getting out about as much, to party to party to party to party, um, and I'm gonna, yeah, and a couple of things before I leave, but I'll be back early tomorrow
Oh yeah.
because I'm gonna go ahead and get to Raleigh. But real quickly, some other things going on in the news. The Omicron variant you talked about,
Mhm.
very high risk to
Yes.
global health. Biden says it's a cause for concern, but not for panic. And Pfizer is planning to apply for approval of its booster for 16 and 17-year-olds. The
Oh
CD
well.
says that all U.S. adults should get boosted. And Jack Dorsey is stepping down as Twitter's chief executive. And, this is the first time that millennials are dealing with inflation.
Wow.
And I was only, I was only 9 years old when Jimmy Carter was president, and we were going through all of the oil the crisis and the Iran hostage crisis and everything. And the final thing I'll say is that the Pentagon will investigate a 2019 airstrike in Syria
Hmm.
that killed dozens of women and children. And this week we'll also be talking a little bit about the abortion case, the
Right.
possible overturning of Roe v. Wade from the Texas law. What does that mean for politics? Will such a decision perhaps be what the Democrats need to have a galvanizing issue as they head to the polls as we begin in January, primary season, where we'll be focusing on the U.S. Senate and the state Senate and the legislature and the Congress, and it'll be interesting. But this whole year, watch your wallet. Lots of campaigning, and going to be very interesting to see uh, what happens in the political season, and whether the Democrats will be able to use this, or will this be a litmus test on the president's approval rating? The pandemic now all of a sudden ratcheting back out of control with this Omicron variant. Is that going to hurt consumer confidence? Mark, you brought up the fact: is it going to are we going to go back to mask mandates and
Okay.
going back as we hit another surge to hunkering down? When will we ever get back to a normal, the way we remember normal, which may be
Yeah.
a very
So
long time?
it could be a long time, and not only that, but I'm wondering to some degree about a couple of things you brought up. One, that people are wondering about Jack Dorsey and the new direction of Twitter. So, how do you feel about the new direction of Twitter? But the more important issue that actually my brother brought up, and we were having this conversation on Thanksgiving, and I'd love to hear your take on this. If Biden doesn't run, who would be the leading candidates? Because when we were thinking of candidates, we couldn't really think of anybody that had a strong enough base to really win. Kamala has kind of vanished. Yang is now an independent, and we really don't know. We haven't heard a lot from him. We were actually thinking he had a position in the cabinet, but realized that he did not, and everything. And then, Elaine, not Elaine, Marshall. You've got to not a, I'm trying to think about it, but it's one of the other candidates from the presidential candidate. There was a woman and everything, but a lot of these folks are not that strong. Bernie is even older than Biden. So, who do you see as somebody that could actually step into that Democratic void and become
Yeah.
president? Or do you think that it will be somebody that's
Well,
out of the
what's
blue?
interesting? I've been thinking about this more and more. I actually believe, to be very honest with you, who I think is going to come out as a possible front runner is Pete Buttigieg.
Okay.
I do believe that Mayor Pete Buttigieg has the national foreign policy experience. He has now run one of the largest agencies in the history in the United States, transportation. We're in
Hmm.
the midst of an infrastructure bill. Um, he's got the pedigree. He would be the first LGBTQ president of the United States. But let's not forget his pedigree. This is
Right.
a man who went to Harvard, were Ivy League educated. McKinsey, might have even been a Rhodes Scholar. If you look on paper, Pete Buttigieg is very presidential and could very well be the first presidential candidate that's in his early 40s, young,
Hmm.
dynamic, engaging. I wouldn't count him out. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm not.
I think you got to give him a serious look, and because I think this president's got to have experience. And even though he was only the mayor of I mean, a relatively smaller town, well, is it? South Bend's actually pretty big.
Mhm.
It's not a Chicago or Atlanta. I don't know. I mean, I think Buttigieg could be on the ticket, but you got
Yeah,
to
but
like his chances of leading the ticket.
well, my question for that is, well, two things. The Elizabeth I was trying to remember was Elizabeth Warren and all of that. But that being said, do you think that America as a country is ready to elect somebody from the LGBTI community, and particularly one that has also got a spouse? So that's what my question is. I know I would have no problem with that, but I don't know whether the Joe Blow in Central America or the central part of America, the Bible Belt and the farmland would be as accepting as say I might be.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're not. Maybe we're not ready. But it's just a thought. But I mean, he comes to mind. Hey, listen, I'm going to leave early
No
because
problem.
I'm going to head to Raleigh. But we'll be back tomorrow for the full hour, and
Yep.
we'll be talking about all kinds of good stuff. Right?
Yep, definitely. And thanks for mentioning Giving Tuesdays because I've actually been involved with the arts organizations, and several of those arts organizations are part of Giving Tuesday. So I know a lot of those are organizations that people will be given to both on the state level as well as on the local level. Because I want to say the Durham Arts Council is an agency that people are hoping will get some money. North Star of the Arts, which is the thing that the freelance put together, is another one that people are thinking about. And of course, Haiti is another one. So definitely a lot of these are organizations that we need to support, both the art ones as well as those that are working in other things like social justice and health and a number of other things as well. So I definitely can agree with you that I'm hoping many people will be given to these organizations during the course of this. So North Star Church of the Arts is actually the one and the full title that they are having over there, and that is the organization that the freelance put together. And in a lot of ways, it's a salute to Phil Freelon. So in a lot of ways, because that was a vision that he had along with his wife and others. So definitely, hopefully, many people will be given to folks on a regular basis and all of that. And by the way, our friend from California said hello. So she was watching and
Well,
did
guys,
greet us.
I'm sorry my
Oh, you're
schedule got
good.
wrapped up. I'm just going to try to go ahead and knock out some meetings for work. But thank you all so much. I'll be back tomorrow morning and hopefully PBS on Friday, but I haven't heard from you yet. So it might be the following Friday. I know I'm coming back. It's just they have a rotated schedule, but we'll be in PBS one time this month,
Okay. Well,
maybe twice.
no problem. We look forward to seeing you at PBS, and definitely reporting from there. I'm going to bring up some of the spots from our other shows and all of that. And of course, we're going to get out of here. It might be an abbreviated show this time around, but glad that Steve was able to make an appearance and share some of his knowledge and wealth of wisdom as well. And I'd love to hear from some of our guests as to whether they think that there is a chance that Pete could be the president and all of that. And by the way, if you want to know some celebrity news, Rihanna is now has an official title. That's right. So Rihanna smiled under her face mask as she heard her name called in the pre-dawn hours of Tuesday, but hesitated before she stood up. Before her were top Barbadian government officials who encouraged her to join them at a crucial moment in her nation's history. You can come, my dear, Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley told the multi Grammy winner. Rihanna had been declared a national hero by the Barbadian government and bestowed with the title the Right Excellent as the island bade farewell to Queen Elizabeth II as head of state and celebrated becoming a republic for the first time in history. On behalf of a grateful nation, but an even prouder people, we therefore present to you the designee for National Hero of Barbados, Ambassador Robin Rihanna Fenty, the Prime Minister said. May you continue to shine like a diamond and bring honor to your nation by your words, by your actions, and to do credit wherever you shall go. God bless you, my dear. Rihanna raised her palms to her heart as she stood next to Botley and said thank you before they walked off stage and briefly put their arms around each other. Before Rihanna sat down again, she greeted several people, including Prince Charles. It was the first time in more than 20 years that Barbados has bestowed that honor. The last person to receive the title was former cricket player Garfield St. Auburn Sobers. A total of 11 people have now been honored since 1998. including a slave who led a rebellion and the first person of African descent to serve in the island's parliament. As Motley presented Rihanna, she noted that the pop star came from humble origins and was born less than a mile from where the ceremony was taking place. She congratulated the singer for commanding the imagination of the world through the pursuit of excellence with her creativity, her discipline, and above all else, her extraordinary commitment to the land of her birth. Rihanna has won 9 Grammys in various categories, including rap, dance, and R&B, and is working on an upcoming album. She also owns a lingerie line called Savage X Venti and has been praised for being inclusive, hiring women of all shapes, sizes, and colors for her fashion shows. So that is some good news in that regard as well. So glad to hear that, and that is some positive news that was happening in the world in that sense. Another story that Shaquille, if he was here, might find interesting, and I found interesting, was that there was a moment of prayer in one of the games that was taking place recently. I believe it was the game with the New Orleans Saints and all of that. But apparently, after a player was hit with a very serious injury in that game, one of his teammates came to him, knelt down in a prayer, and apparently several of the other teammates also joined them in that moment of prayer. And a lot of people were noticing that on social media and were praising that action on social media as well. So that was a moment of social media news that was kind of a interesting and positive regards of people using prayer to help a person out when they seem to be in a troubled situation, even in the middle of a packed stadium and all of that. So I know a lot of times people wonder about public prayer, but that seemed to be a case where it was definitely appreciated by many in the audience. I'm sure some that were of the Christian faith and some that might have just enjoyed that moment of unity and all of that. So I'd love to hear people's thoughts about those kind of actions and whether they get enough coverage when we see good news and all of that. We'd actually talked about that in one of our news reports yesterday, whether people do enough coverage of the positive news and all of that. So I'd love to hear people's thoughts as to whether they hear enough good news. And maybe that's the reason that people are staying away from the news. Because I had seen a LinkedIn poll where a majority of people were saying that they weren't even watching the news that much. And I'm wondering if it's because all they're seeing is negative news, or as Kim Calhoun pointed out in Media Monday, that if it bleeds, it leads. So maybe they need to do a better job of covering some of the positive things as well. And speaking of interesting news, in Mobile, Alabama, an Alabama woman who says she was falsely arrested for shoplifting at a Walmart and then threatened by the company after her case was dismissed has been awarded $2.1 million in damages. A Mobile County jury on Monday ruled in favor of Leslie Nurse of Seams, news outlets reported. Nurse said in a lawsuit that she was stopped in November 2016 when trying to leave a Walmart with groceries she said she had already paid for, according to Al.com. She said she used self-checkout, but the scanning device froze. Workers didn't accept her explanation, and she was arrested for shoplifting. Her case was dismissed a year later, but then she received letters from a Florida law firm threatening a civil suit if she didn't pay $200 as a settlement, according to her lawsuit. That was more than the cost of the groceries she was accused of stealing. Nurse said Walmart instructed the law firm to send the letters and that she wasn't the only one receiving them. The defendants have engaged in a pattern and practice of falsely accusing innocent Alabama citizens of shoplifting and thereafter attempting to collect money from the innocently accused, the suit contended. WKRG reported that the trial featured testimony that Walmart and other major retailers routinely use such settlements in states where laws allow it, and that Walmart made hundreds of millions of dollars this way in a 2-year period. Defense attorneys for Walmart said the practice is illegal in Alabama. A spokesperson told Al.com that the company will be filing motions in this case because it doesn't believe the verdict is supported by the evidence and the damages awarded exceed what is allowed by law. It'll be interesting to see what happens in that regards and whether anybody wins in a appeal of that case and things along those lines. But that being said, we're going to bring you some of these spots that we have of some of the other shows that air around here as well. And one of them is a personal favorite of mine, which is this show entitled All Around. So this is one that Tawana Anthony does, and I'm going to bring that to you, as well as, of course, Alexander Starr. Actually, I think I'll start with Alexander Starr. And then we'll go to
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves.
They said I should give it up, like that just ain't good enough. I wasn't told.
All right, as we get ready to wind down the news report on this particular day, glad that Steve popped in, and hopefully the rest of the gang will be here tomorrow. But there is a new details on Chris Cuomo's role advising his brother Andrew. So newly released transcripts are shedding light on CNN anchor Chris Cuomo's role in advising his brother, ex-New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo was facing sexual harassment allegations that eventually forced him from office. And I'm sure that people will be paying attention to what role Chris might have played in advising and things of that nature. And I'm sure that there might be some further reports on that as well. So we might hear some interesting comments and get some reaction to that from others as well. So, and if you want some more light news, Salma Hayek even makes drinking lemonade look amazing. And by the way, there's a character that is in one of the plays that I'm involved in that is named Lemonade, so I'm going to have to tell her about this particular story. But on Monday, the 55-year-old actress shared a photo of herself sporting a Gucci one-piece swimsuit that showed off her curves as she took a refreshing sip of lemonade with her hair dripping wet. This is not my wardrobe for House of Gucci, but I highly recommend it anyway. And then she spoke in Spanish, and I'm not going to try to say it and everything because my Spanish is not all of that great and everything. But fans flooded the comments. This will break the internet, a fan wrote, with others echo, and you look amazing, Salma, and wow, just wow, and you look great in anything. She shared another swimsuit photo just last week that gave similar carefree vibes as she kicked back in a white hammock wearing a blue curve hugging one piece. Nothing like a hammock siesta to recover from promoting two movies back to back. And definitely it does look like she is having some great and enjoyable time and all of that. So that is just some light news that folks might be interested in as well. And not only has I been having to do work around promoting her latest movies, but she found herself being more than an actress on the set of Marvel's Eternals. In a recent interview, she admitted that she was the mother on set to several of her co-stars, including Barry Keoghan. For example, Barry, who plays the role of Droic, has dyslexia like me and came to my trailer every day. Help me with the lines. I'm ashamed that others hear how I read. And there I would sit with him and we would laugh a lot. It was like doing homework with my kid, she recalls. He is much younger than me, and he is another actor with dyslexia. I did not even know that she had dyslexia. So sometimes in these news stories, I learn things as well. So that is one of the things that I just found out myself. And I've got dysgraphia. So I did not know that she had dyslexia. So you learn things sometimes when you do these stories and all of that. On that note, I'm going to get on out of here. We're going to call it a slightly early edition of the news report. And all of that, I will be bringing you once more the clip about the New Year's special that is coming your way. And then we'll be back tomorrow with more outstanding news. But hope everybody's having a great Monday. Well, not Monday. Today is Tuesday. See, I'm losing track of my days. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday and that they are looking forward to a rest of an amazing week and all of that. And like I said, we will be back Wednesday. Yours truly has got to go to a board meeting later on this evening that is associated with the Carolina Theater, which I am part of. And then I think I've got a rehearsal with that group that I'm part of, the Funky Eye Puppets, as well. And of course, on Wednesday, I'll be back with the online dinner party in addition to the news report. But let's check out about Brandon's special coming your way.
They said I should give it up like